For me. For me.
Developing the agricultural sector is a concern of the countries and the government to achieve sustainable development. To succeed, the countries that have come together in the various organizations to establish a consensus to achieve this development through the protection of environment and the management of disasters due to climate change. In the agricultural sector, international organizations have found that there are other barriers to the use of chemical fertilizers because although these fertilizers increase production, they gradually degrade the soil, ecosystems, and the health of population. In 2015, at the 21st Conference of Countries held in Paris, France, whose objective was to see together the management of climate change, Burundi committed to implementing the various projects to contribute to implementation of international sustainable development projects. Thus, Burundi was represented by the second vice president at that time, Joseph Butore. He said what Burundi was going to do was in the project he had presented in that conference, and he called on all partners to support Burundi in the implementation of these projects.
It's important to insist that many specific projects and programs are ongoing in the water sector, energy, in agriculture, in health, and the waste management. Regarding Burundi's planned determined contribution submitted to the Secretariat of the Convention, it is only waiting for the financial support to be implemented from 2016. We request from partners acquired to this good cause to humbly double their efforts to honor their promises.
In the forestry sector, Burundi has committed to planting trees on an area of 8,000 hectares per year for a period of 15 years from 2016, while in the agricultural sector, Burundi has committed to gradually replace chemical fertilizers with organic fertilizers up to 100% by 2030. At the regional level, Burundi is making satisfactory steps in the manufacture of organomineral fertilizers. Here, it was found that Burundi is in the process of implementing the Paris Convention in France by Nkugaburire, reducing the use of chemical fertilizers from abroad. It was the Prime Minister of the state of Burundi, Gervais Ndirakobucha, who represented the President of the Republic at the summit state and government held in Kenya in 2024 on fertilizers and soil quality.
Abakuru b'ibihugu n'amaleta bose bari bitavye iyo nama barashikirije uko babona ico kibazo.
The heads of state and governments present at this summit expressed their views on this issue and how they plan to find solutions in their countries. They also suggest what should be done to ensure that fertilizers are properly applied to enable African producers well and protect the environment. Their discussions led to the conclusion that 30% of African soil are degraded, which results in poverty, while Africans could develop on the basis of their soil. They also find that fertilizers are sometimes applied without taking into account the doses indicated by specialists, and that certain categories of fertilizers deteriorate soil fertility. Regarding fertilizers on manure, it has been decided that by 2033, all African countries will have tripled the level of manufacture, supply, or making fertilizers close to the population, whether it's fertilizers of industrial origin or fertilizers manufactured in other ways. Secondly, it has been validated that fertilizers manufactured in our countries using material at our own have been validated. Thirdly, it has been decided to support fertilizers manufacturing plants in our countries. For our country, it was a great opportunity after our presentation on how we are doing things. They found that Burundi is at a satisfactory level, which is necessary, and we are moving forward from the level we have already reached. It's that we stay close to the population to help them monitor that the fertilizers being used do not degrade the soil.
Kugira vy'ukuri turabe ko ifumbire tuba tuko turakoresha idatitura kanovera kisi.
igiterwa icyo ari cyo cyose ari umuceri ari ibigo
Any plant, whether it's rice, corn, potatoes, if you give them the nutrients, whether they come from chemical fertilizers, whether they come from organic fertilizers, there is no difference. These foamy fertilizers, its added value is that they contain these three nutrients that were used to sing, plus calcium and magnesium. I wonder the elements that contain in these mineral fertilizers that we know are 5 in number. There is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. There is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK if you will, the calcium and magnesium. That's what we know. But I ask that these fertilizers be transferred to specialized laboratories abroad, and we found the zinc, it's 6, copper, the 7th, molybdenum, the 8th, and sulfur, the 9th. 9 elements in foamy fertilizers compared to the first 3 elements we already know. So, these 3 elements are not enough. They must be supplemented by those other elements. It's very well known that chemical fertilizers cause acidity in the soil, which is why, to make these foamy fertilizers, calcium has been added to neutralize his acidity brought by chemical fertilizers. Therefore, DAP and urea must be applied in parallel with the agricultural lime so that at least this acidity does not add to the acidity that is already in the soil. That's what foamy does. Yes, I say it as an expert, and I think I agree with other researchers.
kandi uko ndabivuga ka bushakashatsi kandi nibaza ko n'abashakashatsi bandi babibona nkuko ndabibona.
Izine foamy irafasha.
The foamy company contributes a lot to the supply of fertilizer to the population. We are proud of this production that we see today, and we congratulate all those who have made their contribution, including the foamy company, which has made organomineral fertilizers available.
Abantu bose bagizemo uruhara harimo n'abazanye ifumbire foamy.
Most of time when countries draw up development projects, it is the entrepreneurs who implement them in collaboration with their government for the development of their countries. This is what happened in Burundi with the aim of reducing the use of chemical fertilizers. Thus, in 2016, a fertilizer manufacturing company, FOMI, made its first installations. The main objective of the founder of FOMI was to manufacture fertilizers that fertilize the soil but without degrading it. These fertilizers were the response to the national policy of increasing agricultural production by decreasing the use of chemical fertilizers that degraded the soil, as always been said.
Ubwa mbere na mbere nagomba nibutse ko ishame FOMI nkuko.
First, I would like to remind you that FOMI, as many people think, is not a commercial company. Rather, it's a society that has come to contribute to finding the solution to the problems that were in the agricultural sector. Among others, the acidity of the soil, erosion, the use of fertilizers that are not adapted to the tropical zone, as the specialists say, as well as the problem related to the respect of environment. There are also problems related to salinity and sodicity, which is common in plains. For example, to show you that FOMI is not a commercial company, if we talk about acidity, for example, you see that FOMI has proven to be the first to deal with the problem related to the acidity by manufacturing agricultural lime and by giving it to the entire population so that they can fight massively against acidity. Regarding erosion, for those who didn't know, FOMI has been able to multiply plants all over the country. So far, we have already planted 3 in 11 provinces, and in these provinces we have donated 2 million seedlings. Another thing I would like to say is that for me, we no longer use firewood because we have already seen that it's against the protection of environment. So, these seedlings that we have donated, this abandonment of the use of firewood, all this is an effort that we have undertaken to fight climate change. So, if I come back to the use of fertilizer that specialists talk about, which are not adapted to tropical areas like here in Burundi, they say that to fertilize the soil, you should rather use organic manure fertilizers. In the FOMI company, next to that, for them to manufacture these fertilizers, they had echoes here and there talking mainly about the conclusions of the COP21 held in Kenya, which stipulated that by 2030, chemical fertilizers will no longer be used, that they will be replaced by organic fertilizers. So, for our soil, this organomineral approach cannot be automatic and direct. It's a process. This is how FOMI first began to manufacture fertilizers that, after their use, will have restored the soil fertility so that fertilizers will no longer be needed. So, FOMI fertilizers are in the line with the organomineral approach.
Hazohakenewe iyo fumbire kirundi yonyene.
Experts in soil fertilizers affirm that the manner of which these fertilizers are made is one of the faithful solutions of increasing agricultural production and restoring soil fertility.
Iganiro ca mbere twashimikiye cyane mu kwerekana.
In the first program, we focused on the usefulness of organomineral fertilizers because they conform to the structure of the soil, which is composed of the organic part and the mineral part. I have already said that in reality, it's a good thing to be able to manufacture fertilizers that conform to the structure of the soil. This is where I said that FOMI really follows nature. In fact, to maintain the soil, you only have to follow two things. There is carbon, which is the organic part I'm talking about. And the second, calcium. Calcium is the mineral salt that is the patron saint of other mineral salts. Calcium corresponds to the mineral part. So, if you have enough organic manure and enough calcium in the soil, you can't have acidity problems. So, FOMI, or organomineral fertilization if you will, what is its remedy? The soil problem is based on these mineral salts that tremble here and here in the soil because there is the problem of infiltration linked to the impermeability of the soil. The organic matter provided by FOMI facilitates porosity. The porosity is brought about by organic manure, hence FOMI. This is why FOMI is organomineral. I say organic.
Ndavuze organic.
In 2019, FOMI was officially opened. The ceremonies were honored by the former President of the Republic, the late Pierre Nkurunziza. Based on conventions of the COP21 held in Paris, France, asked the Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that there are no more chemical fertilizers entering the country and testified to the quality of its fertilizers in increasing agricultural production and the quality of agricultural products.
Kubitwerekeye twagatwande dushimire FOMI kuko uyu mwavu turi mu bantu natwe twawugerageje.
As far as we are concerned, we thank FOMI very much because we are among the people who have tested these fertilizers in our fields. The harvest we had before has doubled to say that it is a good fertilizer. This crop, we tested the flavor. The crop we had for maize, cassava, sweet potato, and beans, it's more delicious than before. Therefore, call on all Burundians and the foreigners who invest in the agricultural sector to use these fertilizers because they are so very important. We would also like companies such as Sosumo, Otebe, and the coffee sector, if they were active in using the fertilizers. They would have helped the state to reduce 250% of the foreign exchange used to import chemical fertilizers abroad. At FOMI, we ask you to register with the authorized bodies as soon as possible so that tomorrow or the day after tomorrow there are no people who appropriate their innovation.
In the years that followed, the President of the Republic, Evariste Ndayishimiye, in his speech at the official opening of extension of FOMI, warned those who are used to copying the innovations of others to stop this bad behavior and instead to engage in other sectors to develop the country.
We don't forget to give a nod to the people who preferred to take the short path to copy the innovations of others. Apart from the fact that it's a bad behavior punishable by law, this behavior is against Burundian culture. I would like to wink at you. Please respect the copyright. This is the time for everyone to follow the model of this innovator from the FOMI company to commit capital to other sectors. The Ministry of Agriculture must closely monitor this company and ensure that there are no longer chemical fertilizers, the origin of soil degradation that enters the country.
bugasinzikaza amagara y'ibinyabuzima.
Users of FOMI fertilizers, experts and those who have understood the role of these fertilizers in the development of the country testify that there is a clear difference between FOMI fertilizers and the conventional fertilizers called chemical fertilizers. They congratulate the founder of the company very much, he who first understood the country's agricultural-based policy.
Uruhara rwa FOMI muri iki bintu byo kugwiza umwimbo ni ntangere kandi ruribonekeza.
The role of FOMI is very remarkable in agricultural production because it's true that if a farmer grows without using the fertilizers, he does not harvest anything. If the fertilizers have been applied, especially FOMI Imbura, which is the bought fertilizer, respecting the application dosages prescribed by the agricultural technicians, the harvest must be satisfactory.
Abafundi bavyigisha abarimyi biraboneka yuko umwimbo ushobora kwiyongera.
Ifumbire ya FOMI iratuma isi itatituka.
FOMI fertilizers do not degrade the soil. That's why we like it very much. Take a good look at this maize, to which FOMI fertilizers have been used. They are very good. These special fertilizers continue to be appreciated by many people, whether in Burundi or elsewhere. The Director General of FOMI, Simon Hirameba, says that he thanks the government very much for the support it continues to give them.
FOMI has come at the right time, and no one can contradict and say that we are not telling the truth, because these benefits speak for themselves. And I would like to express my thanks. First of all, I would like to thank the state because FOMI was created under its authorization. And if FOMI exists today, it's because the state has supported it. Work with the state. It supports us in everything we need, especially by giving us the means to function. For this purpose, we thank the state, starting with His Excellency, the President of the Republic, because he is the number one to represent the state, and he is the decision maker who makes it possible for things to run smoothly through the country. If FOMI is functioning, it's because it has benefit from the blessing of the head of state. So, we thank the state which takes care of us and is ready to listen to us for smooth running of its activities, and we hope that in the coming days things will be good, because the observation is that all people are active in using FOMI fertilizers, especially since the use of FOMI fertilizers is among the means of environmental protection, and that environmental protection is a matter of concern to people and the whole world, as our earth is degrading in terms of way people exploit natural resources. As you know, today we are not only in Burundi. In Tanzania, fertilizers are made, used, and the users are satisfied. In Kenya, fertilizers are supplied. In Malawi, fertilizers are also there. In Uganda, fertilizers are being transported there, and several other localities where they are appreciating this genius of making organomineral fertilizers. It is the one that is needed for this century.
Farmers are then called upon to continue the use of FOMI fertilizers in accordance with those prescribed by agricultural technicians to properly maintain our cultivable soil and boost production with FOMI fertilizers.
FOMI.